Hey everybody, how's it going? Give me a 1 if you guys can hear me okay, please. And a 2 if you can see my screen, which should be my dashboard for Project Supremacy v3. Awesome, thank you. Helen? Not sure how to pronounce that. So I'll just, thanks Terry. We'll just get started, we're recording. So guys, welcome to Project Supremacy v3 training webinar. Format of this webinar, once again, pure training, everything to do with Project Supremacy v3. So it's pure question and answer based format where you guys get to ask any questions you want about Project Supremacy v3. I will start today. Oh yeah, I guess I'll start with the events page on Supremacy Digital. Okay. Supremacy Digital, if you don't know, is our website where we basically have everything, all replays, all webinars, for everything that we do. You guys probably know we have more than one software product. So we hold a lot of different webinars, for a lot of different things. Okay. And our events page, I'm going to put this link in your chat, okay, is where you can keep up to date about what webinars are upcoming. All right. Inside the members area, if you guys join, it is free to join, of course. Just go to supremacy.digital and you'll be able to join. But inside the members area, all webinar replays for all products are in here, including webinars for products that Todd and I own, as well as webinars with guests. Okay. I do have a bit of updating to do with some of the guest webinars, but here's all the Supremacy webinars organized by product, and once again, they are all keyword searchable formats. So if you guys have questions about specific items, okay, we'll go into the V3 one since we're on a V3 webinar. If you have specific questions about specific items, you can use the keyword searchable function to find the point out of all the past webinars we've held, you can find the topics. So for instance, if you're looking at nested schema, okay, you can just type in nested, and it'll bring you to all the webinars where we've talked about that specific topic. Okay, you just have to do a keyword research, and then typically I like to right click and open links in a new tab just so that this stays here, and then that brings you right to the webinar on YouTube at the point in time where we're talking about that topic. So that keyword searchable format is for all webinars. We will host, if you're just interested in V3 webinars without wanting to sign up to Project Supremacy, you can go to webinars. Okay, you can go just to the V3 webinars page, if I spell it right. Okay, here we go. I'll put that link in there as well. There you go. Okay, same idea, guys, except this is just hosted on the Project Supremacy V3 page as well. And this is only Project Supremacy webinars, but I definitely think it's better to get into Supremacy Digital because you can access everything, including our free courses and content and stuff like that. So go ahead and join if you haven't already, and we'll post everything in there. So once again, question and answer based format. Today, I will cover some of the things that are coming up, some of the updates that have happened, whether you know it or not, or some of the things that are coming up. So number one, I'll point to you to the news section of your dashboard. Okay, if you go to the changelogs, you can see we have been busy. Okay, you can always tell what we've been doing by coming to the changelogs, and you can see the dates that we're releasing new versions of the plugin. So this is today, that's yesterday, that's on the 2nd, the 1st, the 31st, the 30th, and then you could just get quick ideas of what's been done to each one. So it's always going to be there. But the things I want to cover mainly inside the plugin, I'm going to go to WP admin. Whoops. And I think I covered this last webinar actually, but I'll cover it again just for anyone that hasn't seen this. Okay, inside the plugin in the project manager, we were having a little bit of issues with pulling keywords when you guys were doing searches. So I'll just create a new project here. Okay, we'll call it testy or tester. Okay, so let's say you were doing keyword research inside of the project planner. Okay, and you would do basically the actions automatically generate groups. And then let's say you were doing keyword research for something like, I don't know, Bitcoin's always comes to mind because I'm a Bitcoin guy. So type in the word Bitcoin, say how many keywords you want to pull. We'll pull in, 200, give them a minimum search volume of 2,000. Okay, and a minimum cost per click of $1. Okay, and then click OK. Normally what happened, a lot of times what was happening is that we'd get an error message down here saying API is overloaded, please try again. So we've fixed that. We've put everything into a queuing system now so that no matter what, your words, you don't have to search for them again. They'll just go into a queuing system, and then when the API load is down, you'll be next in queue. It is running pretty fast, pretty solid. So once you click that, you don't want to sit here and wait on this screen because nothing will happen. So either just go back to projects. You'll get an email as well when it's done, but go back to projects. It's obviously not done yet. And then you could just press Control F5 or whatever until it shows up. You'll also get an email as well. Maybe something went wrong here, or maybe I'm just not waiting long enough. But that's one of the big updates, guys, is the keywords in here are always going to come through. You're not going to ever have to wait for those again. Another one of the updates that we're working on has to do with comments, because I mean I run a lot of sites with PSv3, and I'm kind of an anal person. I like to keep things really clean and organized. It just helps me in my business. So for instance, we have a comments log here. This is showing you what comments are showing up on your blog. Okay, so we added a delete all button. For me, it's typically a delete all scenario where it's a lot of spam comments coming in and stuff like that. So we added the delete all button, but you can also open up comments individually, and then like kind of how I just did there, and then I closed it. So there's 1,032 comments. So I mean, you can go through them one by one if you want, or what you can do is go to the specific website, okay, and search for the domain that you're looking for. So in this instance, it was Culinary. I'm not sure how to spell it. I'll just put in the first 4 words. Okay, so Culinary top 50, and then we're going to go into the management feature of this particular website. Okay, and we'll go over to the comments. Now, this is where things have changed. You can see here we have quite a few. We have 3,800 comments here, pending 164, trash 3,600. So we didn't have this delete all button before. And since I know that a lot of these are crap, what we can do now is just click delete all. Okay, and it'll delete a maximum of 10,000 comments at a time. And you can see there now all 0, 0, 0, 0, empty the trash, spam, everything. So that was coming, that's a new feature, and it really helps when you get sites like mine that people are submitting a lot of comments into the queue. The other thing you can do as well is go to your settings and just turn off commenting. Okay, that's another option for you guys if you want to stop the comments, and that's really probably what I should do. But it was still good to build in the functionality to actually just delete all the comments. So that was built in. Let me take a look at our dev notes here. I'm just going to look at dev reports. Okay, so, oh yeah, so in the schemas, this new thing was added, and a lot of people were kind of confused about it in the Schema Builder. So let's say I'm building, a Q&A schema. I'll just type in QA page. Okay, we'll load that schema type. And then you're going through, and a lot of people were seeing this little green box, okay, and it'll appear on certain things but not on others. And a lot of people were like unsure of what that was, and that allows you to add a nested custom schema type to the property of the type. Okay, so for instance, if I click on this button, what it would do before is it would say, type in your schema type, and a lot of people were getting errors because they were typing in things that didn't exist. So we changed it. So what it is now is if you want to add a custom schema type to about, you would click this green button, and then you can either search or scroll for the properties that will work with that particular property of schema. So we made it easier to understand like what's actually going to happen, right? So like medical and enumeration, I can pick that, and you can see under the about, it adds a nested schema of medical enumeration. I guess the next thing I want to talk about before we get to Q&A is we had one question come in where someone was trying to build out breadcrumb schema based on, let me see if I still have those tabs loaded somewhere. I don't actually, but they were trying to build a breadcrumb based on a schema that someone else built, right? And then they didn't understand how come they couldn't get the structure right. And I think it's worth looking at. Let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna just on my other window here, go in and look at this. I'll find it quick. I know where I put it to the dev group because there's one thing we need to update here. So here we go. Here's one of them. And this is really worth talking about. Sorry, I'm just gonna load up. Was it this one? Oh, and I can go to Giazzo as well. So nested schemas kind of trick people. Let me just load this and I'll get my thoughts in a row here. So this was one of the ones that someone had pulled in the Google structured data testing tool. Okay, now I've marked it up with this kind of stuff, but basically they were building a breadcrumb list schema to show like a hierarchy of pages on their site, and they were unable to get it to kind of look like this. And so the important thing to know is you have to understand structured schema, like nested schemas. So for instance, the top level schema, the schema type is breadcrumb list. So what I'll do is I'll load that up over here. Okay, so we'll go back to our schema builder, start closing tabs so I don't get lost. Okay, let's say we were going to build out a breadcrumb schema. So we would type out breadcrumb list, right? And then, so it loads the type, and then it obviously has a lot of properties. So if you're trying to replicate, okay, this is in the scenario where you see someone else's schema like this, and you're like, I want to replicate that. You have to understand what they have here in the structure of it. So the first thing is you can see they have breadcrumb list as the main schema, right? And then they have 3 entries of item list element next, right? So they have item element list number 1 here, item element list number 2 here, and item element list number 3 here. So it's a very simple thing. In the breadcrumb list, they only have 3 entries, which is item list, item list, item list. But each item list now has a sub schema of list item, right? And then it has a value of position, and then it has another sub schema of item, which is a thing schema. So the thing is a subset of list item, which is a subset of item list, which is a subset of breadcrumb, right? And that's why these green lines indicate, well, I didn't put my last green line in there. The orange lines indicate the second level. The blue line indicates the third level, meaning it's a subtype of that. So in order to build this out, the way to do this, guys, is the easiest way is to build from the bottom up. So build your blue ones first because they're the most nested. They're the furthest down. So you'd go in and build 3 thing schemas, right? Then next you would go in and build 3 list item schemas. And then finally you'd go build a breadcrumb item list or a breadcrumb list schema. And then you'll assign the thing to the list item, assign the thing to the list item, assign the thing to the list item, and then assign all 3 list items to the breadcrumb schema, and that'll create your structure, right? So let me kind of show you that. So the first thing we're going to want to do, okay, we'll do it under this breadcrumb examples. Remember, we want to start from bottom to top. So we need 3 thing schemas. So we're going to build those first, okay? So I'm just going to do it in this breadcrumb example. So we're going to load up thing, right? Okay, so there's our thing, there's all our properties. Now we're going to go back here and say, okay, now what elements of thing do we need? Well, we need ID and we need name, right? And the ID is a value, a URL value, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'll name it. I'm going to call this thing1, right? And we're going to choose the folder that we're going to save this into, and it is called breadcrumb example. So I'll just search for that. It's faster. There it is, breadcrumb example. Okay, so thing1. Now, once again, we're going to do name and ID. That's the items we're going to build. So I can do Control F and just look for name, right? So I see there's 4 entries. I'm going to scroll down. There's name. So we're going to open the name, and we're going to give it a name. Okay, we'll just call it thing one, right? And then we need ID. Now, this is something that's about to get updated. I was thinking ID was identifier. Okay, so like for identifier, for instance, if we go back to our image, we see ID is being used as a URL, right? So I'm going to use identifier and I'm going to put in any URL, right? And we can even say page one, right? So that's thing one. There's only two elements when I'm recreating this that I need to worry about, name and ID, right? Under thing. So what I'll do is I'll save it now because it's literally done. And if I click this button, show my properties only, it'll show out only the things that were actually filled out, not everything. This is when you want to look at everything that's available to you. You turn this on and that shows you only the properties of thing that you're actually working on. So identifier and name. So I'm going to save that schema, right? And wait for this to load. I'll close this up a little bit. So I'm going to open up our breadcrumb example, and there's our thing, right? Thing one. Now, the quick way, since we needed three things, right? And we'll do this just like this. Since we needed three things, we're going to just do the quick thing. We're going to right click on this and we're going to go duplicate, right? And then what that's going to do is it's going to duplicate thing one. Okay, so now I'm going to load the new one. I'm going to show only my properties, and I'm going to do this. Page two, thing two. Right? And we'll call this thing two, save schema, right? Now we're going to replicate. Actually, I won't go 3 levels deep, guys, because you get the point. You would do that 3 times. So remember, we're building bottom up, but I'm only going to do two, not 3. So the next thing that we have to do is build list item schema, right? So now we're going to go and search for list item. Right? So we'll load the list item. Okay. And now we have to say, okay, well, what elements are going in the list item? Well, position, and then we're subnesting that thing that we just built. So position and thing. So let's go do that. So position, so we're going to name this now. We'll start list item. We're going to always name it first. Let's open this back up. Okay, so list item, we'll call it 1. Okay, and then the item, now you guys are like, why am I choosing item? The reason I'm choosing item is because you can see right here, the schema type is list item, and the 2 properties are position and item, right? So item, we're gonna click the plus button to add item, and you can see it's loading a thing. Well, what thing are we gonna load? Well, we're gonna load the thing that we just built. Thing 1, right? See, it's showing there because we've already built it. And then position is the next item that we're going to put. So we're going to use a text value and we're going to put position 1, right? So list item 1, save, right? Okay, and then we're going to open that up, see how it looks. So we have list item here and thing here. So now, see how it assigned, it nested it? So now we're going to do another one. So we'll do list item again. And this time it's called list item 2. So you guys are hopefully seeing like, you got to keep shit straight in your mind what you're building. So it's good to have a reference point. So list item 2, once again, the properties we're going to need from it are position and item, right? So let's look for item, right? Here it is. We're going to add that. It's going to be a thing, and we're going to choose the bottom thing 2, right? And now position is going to be our next one. So we're going to choose text 2. I'll delete this double entry. There we go, position 2, and that's list item 2. Save schema. So now we should have 2 list items. See? But now, okay, so what we've done, we'll just ignore the third one. We have our 2 things, we have our 2 list items, and we've nested our thing as part of our list item, right? In our item list element. So our list item. So now we have to build the top level, which is the breadcrumb list schema, and the property we want to use is item list element. So let's go build breadcrumb schema. Okay, so breadcrumb list. Okay, and we'll call this one whatever, top, right? And remember, what property do we need? We need item list element. So we're going to scroll down until we see item list element. There it is, okay? And we're going to add it, and we need 2 of them, right? So list item, now we're going to assign the type that we're going to use. We're saying we want to nest something, but we haven't specified yet what we're going to nest. So item 1, or list item 1, select. See how the name changed from list item to list item 1? And this one, list item 2, select, right? And was there anything else that we needed to put in there? We need to put in item list element. That's it, right? Because all the real detailed stuff as ID and URL came as part of the thing schema. So there's nothing left that we have to do. So just item list element. So now we're going to save that schema. Okay, and now that's going to condense down again. So now you can see we have just breadcrumb list. Here's our top, the one we just built. So let's look at the structure of this now. And I'll zoom this in. Okay. So once again, this is the folder that I created to do breadcrumb examples. In order to create this folder, I went to manage groups, right? I scrolled all the way to the bottom of my list. I have a lot of websites. Oops, get my mouse out of there. And we'll probably improve this too. And I create add new schema group. And this will create a new folder, right? I can call this folder anything, right? So that click OK. And then what happens is that group gets added. So if I click on schemas again, now I'll have a new folder I can work with called folder added. And that's what this is, saving your schemas in. So kind of going back to the start here, I should have showed that first actually, is how you create a folder to work within. And then if I scroll down, actually it's not there right now because we don't have anything saved in it. So, but anyways, okay, what I could do is I could actually move this. So I'll load the schema that we just built, the one that I just showed you. Okay, so I loaded the top schema. So there it is, top schema, breadcrumb list, and I'm going to hide everything that I'm not using and only look at the things that I am using. So 2 list item elements, right? So let's view the JSON schema code for that now. So here we go. We have, okay, type breadcrumb list, 1 item list element with the list item, the property being a thing, the ID being the URL and the name and the position. And then here's the second entry, the thing, page 2, thing 2, position 2. Okay, and this is a great example because of a lot of people asking about, nested schemas and stuff like that. And I think the easiest way for you guys when you're building nested schemas is to do it like this. You look at the structure of what it is that you want to build, and you build bottom up, right? So if you have 3 levels deep, you're going to build all the elements of level 3 first. Then you're going to build level 2 second and assign the third thing as the nested, right, for each level. And that'll pull everything up into the second level as a nest. Then you build the top one and assign the second nest into the top, and that pulls everything into that as one nested structure. Does that make sense, everybody? And you can see it just like how this structure here is. So this is breadcrumb list schemas. I have 2 of them. One's named breadcrumb structure, the other one's named top. This breadcrumb schema named top has list item schema type nested into it, 2 entries, right? That's why gray things are just the names. When you see these little blocks and they're grayed out, that's just the type, right? And then the blue thing is the thing that's editable and what you named it. So you can see these icons are either blue or gray. Gray, there's nothing you can do. It just says, listen, you have list item schema. And then when you open it, it's like you have this one and this one. So now, once again, we open our nests and you can see each one of these has a thing. So when I open the thing, there's thing 1, there's thing 2. Okay, so let me move this into our folder. So there's our folder anything. So I'll move that whole schema. Okay, I built it in this breadcrumb example, but I'm going to move the whole structure into folder anything. Kind of going, I'm skipping back and forth between lessons, but here you go. Okay, so now there's our breadcrumb schema, right? And then here's our other folder, folder anything, right? So does that make sense to everybody? on how to build schemas a little easier when you have to deal with nested schema? Give me a 1 if that makes sense, please. Give me a 2 if it doesn't. And of course, if you have questions, go ahead and ask those. Nothing? Nobody? Okay, Jana said 1. Thank you, Jana. So one thing in all of this, guys, the one thing I will say, okay, is I was using identifier. So like notice here under the ID has the URL. If I can zoom in on this, okay, this little section here, ID as URL. Now the way that I just built the schema, let me close these. Okay, the way that I just built the schema, if I load that schema type and I look at the JSON code, okay, we don't actually have ID, we have something called identifier. This is going to be fixed. It's supposed to be like this, where it says @ and then ID, and then you supply the URL. Somehow it got overlooked in our schema, so we are going to be building that in, because if I was to take this code now, and one thing you guys should be doing, right, is once you've built your example schemas, if you want to look at if there's any errors, click the copy button, right? That'll copy this schema, take it over to the Google Structured Data Testing tool, and you want to input your code into that tool to really give you a good look at if you have any problems, errors, or warnings. So you would go to code snippet and you'd paste the code that Project Supremacy just built and click run test. Now I know I'm going to get 2 errors, right? It's because I already know what's happening. So there you go, 2 errors. So we have identifier, which I thought was ID, but it's not. It said a value for the ID field is required, but that doesn't exist in V3 yet. That's going to exist right away. I've made this a super high importance for our programmers to make sure they build. But you can see the structure of it. There's breadcrumb list, okay, 1 property of it, item list element, 2 entries, a list item entry, a list item entry. In the list item, there's 2 properties, position, and then item, which has a nested schema of thing type with two more properties, identifier name. So like schema can be mind-boggling, right? Like when you start getting this far down, and I think one of the other things that makes it quite confusing is a lot of times when you load a schema property, so say breadcrumb list, right? And the way that we just built it, where we have the thing is the thing supplying the URL and the name and stuff like that, but the URL, name, those exist, those property types exist in the top level schema too, in breadcrumb list, right? So if I go down here, okay, and I look at name, well, here's name too, but name's also in thing and name's in list item. So where do I put the name if it's the name, right? And that's something that like I can't really answer that, but I can, like the purpose of me showing you guys this is to show you how to take a structure like this, rebuild it quickly in V3. But it's, I mean, I'm not really telling you, is it better to put the name of up here, you know what I mean, or down here? In this case, I would say, well, it's probably being specific in the thing, because that's the breadcrumb list that's saying, look, we have two elements or 2 items on this list, right? So you list off the item. Here's item number 1. Well, what is item number 1? Well, it's a thing with a URL and a name. What is item number 2? Well, it's a thing with a URL and a name. So you're giving your descriptors, you're supplying your descriptors inside the thing schema rather than inside the item list element schema, or even the top level breadcrumb list, right? So like, for instance, if I go here and I give this a name, it might be a different name. It might be, you know, website menu, right? Because that's really what we're building a breadcrumb list for, is a website menu. So now if I click save schema there and we view our JSON code, there'll be 3 entries of name. So you can see right here, right? So we have item list element and name. And then the item list element has sub properties. Jana says, noticing more variations on schema lately, including FAQ to get that accordion drop down in Google search results. Very, very cool. Yeah, schema is just, I'm so glad we have this tool because we're so far ahead in the ability to create any type of schema that Google's going to support for things like rich snippets, right? Which I talked about again on the last webinar, and then somebody found the link for me and I bookmarked it because I'm going to show it again and again and again and again, right? Like this URL, and I'll give it to you guys again in the chat box, is so important because it's really, this should be called opportunities in Google or something like that, because rich snippets in Google, excuse me, rich snippets in Google are the extra type of listings, like the question and answer box. And so like, how do I eat a gorilla? Or I don't know, that's a really stupid search, but let's see what happens, right? There you go, a rich snippet came up, right? And this is called the question and answer box. And then people also ask is another rich snippet. Videos oftentimes you can get the big video. So like really, okay, you guys get the idea of what rich snippets are. The other things too are like things like the Google stars, right? That's another feature of like adding rich results to SERP listings. But these kind of things where they're really, really big and they take up the first page with images or videos or recipes, or there's all kinds of things. That's what these all are. This list is growing. When we first started looking at this list, there was only 2. Now you can get a feature for article, a book, a breadcrumb, which we just built, guys, breadcrumb, a carousel, corporate contact, course, critic review, data set, employer rating, event, fact check, FAQ, how-to, job posting, live stream, local business listing, logo, media, occupation, Q&A, recipe, review snippet. Like just go through this list. I can sit here and read them. Oh, it's almost done. Or there's video. These are all opportunities to get a standout ranking in Google, and what drives most of them is JSON LD schema, and you have the builder to build out any type of schema for that, right? And if you're not sure how to build the structure of it, right, that's what the duplicator's for. So if you're not sure how to build the structure, you'd be like, okay, here's an example of someone that got a rich snippet. Well, was it fired because of schema? Well, what you can do is grab their URL, go back to your schema, put in the duplicator, right? And we'll just do schema, oops. I'm gonna actually create a new folder here. Let's do a new folder here. And I should do this. Once again, I'm super anal. I like to be super organized. So if I'm gonna start trying to discover who's got what, I wanna create a check schema folder. So I'm gonna check schema, right? So that creates a new folder. You don't see it in here yet because nothing's actually saved to that folder, but it does exist. So now I'll go to the duplicator. Okay, there's the URL. And now I need to find my check. Let me refresh this page. Okay, duplicator. And remember, once again, guys, what are we trying to do? We're trying to find out, well, I like this rich snippet. How do I get it for my site? So we get the URL of the site that, you know, got the featured snippet in Google. Then we go back to Project Supremacy v3, run it through the duplicator. Okay, we can call this gorilla snippet, right? And then we have to save it to a schema, and I have a folder called check. I don't know why our search isn't working. I'll scroll down to C's. There's our check schema folder we just created. So we'll run the duplicator. Okay, so couldn't find any JSON LD format schemas on that one. So it might have been a different format, but the idea is the same. Maybe I'll use a more real keyword. How to fly for cheap. Okay, same idea. Here we go again, right? Nice big rich snippet. I'm gonna grab the URL. I'm gonna go to the schema, the duplicator. I'm gonna call this one. Oop. Cheap flight. Make sure that my URL is changed. Okay, and I'll put it in the check schema group, run the duplicator. There we go. So we found that these guys have organization, website, image object, web page, and article, and person. That shit ton of schema on it, right? This URL that came up for, like, imagine someone's searching for how to fly for cheap and this comes up, it's gonna get the clicks, you know, the featured result. So if you want to really copy what they got, right? Let's proceed and pull in their schemas. Okay, and let's really take a look at what they got. So here's the check schema. So there they all are, right? So we can just look at each one individually. So here's their article. So and then we'll pull it in, and then we'll remember we're going to turn on the show my properties only, because we're only worried about the things they actually filled out, right? So article section, an author, a comment count, date modified, publish, all these images, keywords, name. So it's quite in-depth schema, right? And that's just for the article schema. They have image organization, stuff like that. The other way to do that, by the way, is run the same thing back through the Google, the structured data testing tool. Yeah, Jana, that link's in the main chat. It's the developers.google.com one. So let's run that URL and see what they got. Okay, so I'm noticing they really only have one thing, right? Don't ignore H entry because that's a piece of shit. Really all they have is article, and then everything was embedded, right? So really this is the structure that you want. And if you want to see where it is, so this is their page code, by the way. Like if you were to visit the actual URL and press Control-U, right? That's the source code of the page in HTML. There it is right there. It's the same thing that's right here. So if you want to find where the schema actually exists in this, all you have to do is click on the entry at type equals article, and it'll forward you right there, right? So there it is. So let me see. So they're using Yoast, which Yoast, I've been hearing a lot of bad things about their schema, as if they're adding article to everything, right? So one thing I'm going to do though, guys, is I noticed that because a lot of these are nested, and ours didn't pull them in as a nest that just pulled in every type kind of on its own. I'm going to talk to our developers and see if they can't pull those. If they're nested, pull them in nested. Pull in the exact structure in the hierarchy, because you don't want to go through, like we could. It would be easy to go and recreate this, because you would just look at this and then just go in and nest the things where they need to be nested, right? Like the author, it says undefined. Well, that's probably the author. Let's see here. Let's organization, person. Let's do this. So there, organization schema is cheap flight. So it's probably that. But I mean, it's easy to go through and recreate it. But it'd be better if you guys didn't have to. So we'll work towards that. We'll pull in the structure, or like I said, the other way to do it is use the structured data testing tool, and it gives you the hierarchy, right? And that kind of relates all the way back to this, not this image. Let me close them. To this image where you're looking at something and you're like, okay, you know, it's breadcrumb list schema with an item list property. There's 3 entries of item list. Okay, then the next thing is list item, which has a sub schema thing, and they do that 3 times over. Jana says, I've been dealing with a competitor for a client with the term benefits of apple cider vinegar. We were #1 for a while. Need to get back there. Yeah. I don't really want to. I won't. I don't know if that was supposed to be private. Too late now. Right. So we want to see if there's anything there. Right. I'll just do this the other way. computer's a little slow right now. So they got the featured snippet. Let's actually compare the featured snippet to where their content is being pulled from. So here are 6 health benefits of apple cider vinegar. Here are, so they pulled the feature snippet from here, and then they pulled in high in acetic acid can kill many types. High in acetic acid can kill many types. So they used H2 tags. So they basically took it from here and then all the H2 tags and then a picture of the apples, or I guess the bottle there, to create the featured snippet. Now, was there anything JSON involved in that, right? So we'll put the actual URL right in and see what it comes up with. So news article schema, right? And a very simple one. So Jana, like right away, I would just do what they do, get the errors out, like grab their schema, put it in and do a better job. The other thing I might do is actually ask a question. Try to put that keyword into a question format. And I want to show you guys this because this was great. What is his name? Brian Dean. I think it's Brian Dean. Backlinko. Yeah, this guy. He had an excellent article regarding 41. He got like 41 this guy's awesome. Like, if you guys aren't reading this blog, you should be. Let's go to blog. And I'll show you, I'll give you guys the exact article to read. 17 ways to improve your SEO in 2019. This was it. And then I'll add a note. Okay, so what you're looking for in that article is the part about snippets. Get more organic traffic with snippet bait. So like he was showing, like I'm ranking for, I got the featured result for like rich snippets. So like, let's even go verify that. We'll go to Google and type in rich snippets and see if Backlinko comes up with a featured result. He lost it over here, right? Now it's Unamo that has it. Channel keywords we'll try. So Backlinko, he still has it for this. And what he's doing is he's talking about how to set up your page. And this is important for you, Jana, how to set up your page to create a bait where Google will love it. And so snippet bait. So he calls it snippet bait, and he explains how to build it so that you have a better chance of getting the featured snippet. Now, one of the things that I will say, you mentioned that you fell in rankings, is one of the things that he does mention in this article is it's unlikely that if you're not on page 1 already, that you're going to steal the featured snippet. It's if you're on page 1 and then you add the snippet bait and the schema and stuff like that, you'll have a lot higher chance of stealing this featured snippet. But the other thing is adding the schema might improve your ranking. First of all, so if you're on page 2 and you add the right schema for that keyword, that might bump you up to page 1, and then once you're on page 1 and you use the snippet bait, you might grab the featured snippet anyway. So it's kind of a twofold thing, right? He said, she said, Bears. Yeah, see, I don't. Oh, this one right here. So good. You are on page 1, right? So let's just go look at your page here. And we'll obviously look at what you got and maybe how you could do it better. Yeah, it does, Jenna. She asked if it works for the question and answer box in Google as well, and it does. Read that article. It's such a great read. Like really everything that guy puts out, I just love reading it. 10 incredible benefits of apple cider vinegar. That's your post title, but then you have an H1 right here. So right away, I would say you might be over optimized simply for this. Benefits of apple cider vinegar, benefits of apple cider vinegar in an H1 and a post title here. So either find a way to remove your post titles from your page or use LSI keywords here. Like for instance, a list of the top, this should be saying something like a list of the top 10 benefits, apple cider vinegar benefits, the top 10 list or something like that, right? Like you've repeated this specific keyword. Let's see actually how you're ranking for that. Was that the main keyword? Benefits of apple cider vinegar. Yeah, it was. I would try that and see if that doesn't boost you up as well. But then, yeah, some of the things like he basically poses a question and then answers the question right away in a short little blurb. So like, you know, are you looking for the benefits, blah, 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 and then answer the benefits of apple cider vinegar, or you'll have to read the post. But yeah, he puts snippet bait, which is really like a question and answer right away, right up front. So you've kind of done, see the difference between you and them? Your benefits of apple cider vinegar are listed in an LI list, like a numbered list, right? Whereas what they did is they used H2s, right? See the difference? It's pretty obvious right away, like what they did versus what you did. And then you have, let me go through. You have nice like graphic, you have good comments. Yeah, so I would change it. Change this first sentence into an H2 and this as paragraph text under the H2. And then do the same thing here, H2, content under the H2, right? Just do those things, add the same type of schema that they have on this URL, and then see what happens. And then de-optimize maybe a little bit, right? And see if you can't steal it from them. It's worth a try, right? It's definitely worth a try. And the other thing I would do, Jana, as well, if you really want to know like how my brain works and what I would be doing, right, is I would also set this up inside the project planner for this reason. Let me just start. So what I would do if I were you, create a new project, okay? Or you could call it FS for feature snippet or something you'll remember, where all we're gonna look at is the featured snippet, right? So apple cider, because you remember, you can have as many projects as you want. So feature snippet, apple cider vinegar, right? And then, now I don't have that page, obviously. So what you would do is import, where is it? Create pages and posts from current groups. Then find, I found another bug here. Find that exact URL. So here, let's just do it this way. Typically I would import the page, so it imports the title and stuff for me. Put in the title, you know, this one's yours, right? So let's do this. I'm doing it the manual way, even though PSv3 automates this process. So there's your title. Your URL was 10 ACB benefit, and then your description, okay, was, I'll just grab it to there. You get the idea, right? And then your H1 is obviously this. So put those things in there. Okay, we'll just save that for now. So you have all that stuff for you, but then add the keywords you're trying to rank for, right? So then if all of them. Right? Add them all. That's awesome. Yeah, you rank for a shit ton of them. She said she ranks for. But what I would do, add a bunch of them. Okay, get the volume, get the metrics for each one of them. Like the thing that we do here, like get keyword competition, get keyword volume, get all your data filled out, right? And then track the rankings of them, right? And wait until the rankings are tracked, right? Then what you're gonna do, and this is where it's really important. So get all the data into one box, and really you're just seeing, you're testing, right? Your feature snippet testing, right? So you're setting up a project specifically for this page to see if you can steal that featured snippet. So the next thing you're going to want to do, right, is add a note. 2019-08-06 is the date. I should probably do a shorter format, right? And then you can say what you did, like changed ordered list into H2 tags like that other site, and then you can put a URL. And then the other thing you should do is, if you have an image software, take a picture of what you have. So remember, you're going to have all your volume data, broad phrase, and your rankings, right? Take a picture of that little that box, and then add that to your note, right? So that you can always look at what you had when you made the change. So say 2 weeks later, you come back 2 weeks later, right, and your rankings have improved, or maybe they tanked. You know exactly what it was you did and what you haven't done, right? But say you want to make another change. Say something really good happened, 2019, 08, and now you're into, 20 days later. Made another change. Took another picture, right, to track my changes, and then save it. And now that's what the notes are for, right? So that you can always like be tracking and seeing, and like you could even analyze or put your results in your notes. Like really, notes are for anything, right? But it just helps you, especially when you're managing a lot of sites or a lot of pages, and you're doing things all the time and you want to keep track of them, because I mean, knowing what you've done is going to help you get the future result, or understand what happened and why, right? Without, like, I know we're all busy, we just forget, but notes help you just keep organized. Jana says, that's been a problem keeping track. Yeah, I suggest that. And then she says she's been relying on page archive and watching via analytics. Yeah, I just suggest doing stuff like that. Take the picture of it. This is a Jana webinar. Nobody else is really pitching in here, but that's good, Jana. That works out for you. At least somebody's getting a good benefit out of this. Is anybody else out there watching, listening, learning, questioning? Start reading off your names. Christopher, Fred, James, Jana, Mike, Nicholas, Paul, Philip, Rebecca, Reggie, Richard. Okay, a lot of you guys are just kind of sitting here watching, not really. Mike, I was getting errors after installing PSv3, put in a support ticket that was escalated to your WP dev. He said the problem was with, W3 total cache, and left it deactivated. Bottom line, I didn't resolve the problem. More particulars to this problem. Can I email you to see that it gets handling problem? Cache plugins cause problems. We've always known that, Mike. I mean, we even put warnings in and shit like that. Where is it? I forget where that warning comes up, but we always say, like, let's do this. Where is it? Let me think about what I'm trying to do. Here we go. I can't remember. But cache plugins cause problems. That's just a WordPress thing. Send me the link, Mike, personally. I'll take a look at it. Yes, of course. I swear we had a caching, something to help with caching. See, like we built so much stuff into here, like sometimes I don't even remember where it all is. Reggie, always learning from you guys. Philip, hanging on every word. Richard's learning. Christopher, great stuff. I need to delve into the training to learn all this. Mike, even deactivated it and didn't solve the issue. Do I need to delete it? Just submit a support ticket, Mike. I can't really do support on a webinar, unfortunately. That's not quite the intended purpose. So yeah, just submit a ticket. Yeah, thank you. And then of course, Facebook it to me in private so that I can actually look at that ticket as well. Tanya's on here and she's part of our support, so I'm sure she probably even knows. Any other questions, guys? I think we're almost at about an hour. Jana, I really hope that this works out for you, especially since, you know, thank you for sharing your sites and stuff like that and allowing everybody to look. Herc Magnus on Facebook, Mike. Pretty sure we're friends, actually. So yeah, thank you, Jana, for sharing your sites, and hopefully the feedback you got will help you steal some snippets. Let me go undo some of the things I've done here while I'm waiting. Anybody else have any more questions or anything at all? I kind of went over the main changes. We'll remove that project. And found a couple bugs, obviously, too. Oh, you know what? I bet you I know what that bug is created from, because Aveda, which is the, does anybody use Aveda, by the way, for their websites? Give me a 1 if you use Aveda. I'm just curious. Mike says all my sites. Yeah, me too, Mike. I love Aveda. Did you update to 6 yet? And I don't even know if yeah, like it is crazy. I see Project Supremacy is not updated to 6 yet, so we're gonna update it. It's crazy. They released a front. For anyone that doesn't know, Aveda's probably my favorite theme, to be honest. All the projects or software products that Todd and I have, when we build out the members area websites and stuff like that, it's always Aveda. And part of the reason is because I've used Aveda for so long, so I know it so well, so it's fast for me. But the other reason is just like it does so much stuff that I love, and it keeps getting better and better and better. And they just released their front end editor, which means you can edit right on the page rather than the old way of Aveda's, whereas you edit inside the WordPress admin and then you have to like open it as a new view, open in a new tab to see the change, or preview page in a new tab to see the change. Pretty exciting for me. I can't wait to like play with it more and more and more. Thanks, Jana. Yeah, I mean, if you've never used it, it might take a little bit to learn about the features. It is big, so it's kind of like Project Supremacy, right? It's big. It's got a lot of features, so it takes you a little while to get used to it all, and start being able to understand how to move around it quickly and efficiently, right? Just like V3, there's so much shit. I shouldn't say shit. There's so much cool shit in it that, you know, you sometimes when you're like, how do I do this? You got to go, you know, digging for it. But once you got the hang of it, you realize it is quite intuitive. It is quite good. And Aveda is a lot like that. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Mike says he has a question. And while you're typing that question, actually, guys, one of the other updates that's coming is we have a new backend service that we're going to be running our rank tracker through, by the way. So currently, right now, our rank tracking is done through Pro Rank Tracker. So it's like their API system. And we have a new one that we're going to be using. So that's going to get updated over the next couple of weeks. We are taking very, very detailed care of all your URLs and keywords that you currently are tracking, so that when we move to the new system, everything just migrates over. So we don't want to ask anyone to go and re-add anything. We'll migrate it all for you, and we'll make an announcement. So that rank tracker is going to be coming pretty soon, and we won't talk about who it is yet, but we will in the future, because they're new. I stumbled on them, and then I took a free trial, and I was like, oh, wow, these guys are good. Best one I've ever seen. Mike says, to match the name, address, phone number on GMB and all citation sites, how should I put call tracking numbers on the site? So when you build the site, set up the call tracking number for the site immediately so that you own the call tracking number. So you could be doing a couple different situations here, right? Like building, do you own the property first of all? Like, okay, so if you, okay, perfect. If you own the property right away, when you're building a website, rank and rent or lead gen or whatever, if you own the site, set it up with a call tracking number, put that number on the site so that you control the site, you control the number, and you can control where the number forwards to, right? So like say for instance, if you're working with one business and then you decide to change and go to another business, well, you don't need to change the phone number so that you can keep the call tracking number is consistent on all your NAP always, but you just change where the call tracking is routed to. So use the call tracking number on your site, make sure you own it. You misspoke. Okay, I'll just wait for you to rephrase your question here. The client owns the domain and you built the site. And I'm sure the client already has citations with their actual phone number on it and stuff like that. That one's a little more tricky. See, in the last question that I answered, it's easy because you know you're starting off with ownership, so you own the number, you own the business, and all that stuff. But when you're starting with a business already has a phone number, you kind of have to build the citations with their number and stuff like that, which is kind of counterproductive to what you're doing, unless they agree to replace the phone number on their site with a call tracking number, which really might not be that hard to do with them. Because you're saying, look, you guys should know, get data on your calls and stuff like that from the website, right? But in order to do that, we need to put a call tracking number on your website, and then you build the name, the NAP, all the citations and stuff with the call tracking number. So in that regard, you'd have to convince the client to replace the phone number on their website with a call tracking number, which they may or may not be hesitant to do. The other option that you could do is use, let me think about this one. So the real number would be on the website. No, you can't do it like that either. I mean, you could use local supremacy and the skinning technology to replace the number on their site, but that's still, and then you build the citations with the skinning number. Yeah, that one's a little tricky actually. One about just putting phone numbers for call tracking as text images. Yeah, you could do that too. I mean, the only problem with that is that if you wanted the click to call to work, you'd have to embed the telephone. So when people clicked on the number, it actually fired the Ahref tel attribute. Yeah, it's a little tricky when there's a business involved with their own phone number. Because I mean, you probably both have different needs. You want to prove to them that you're driving leads through your marketing, right? And you need a call tracking number to do that. And they want to put their real business information on their citations and their like out there on the internet. You know, they don't want to have their business with some phone number they don't control. So it's a tricky situation. Hopefully they're long-term client and you can just use call tracking numbers. Guys, I'm gonna make this the last call here for questions. We've got about 3 minutes because we started on time and we're about an hour now. So I'll make this the last call for questions. Mike says, I just put the real number in the HTML tell call and the anchor text is really an image. Yeah, I don't think I fully understand the big picture of what it is that you want out of it, Mike, either. And why you're doing it. Like it's always, to answer a question correctly, I have to understand the premise behind the question. Like you're obviously asking a question because you have a situation or a scenario that you need to fulfill, and I don't think I quite understand that. Yeah, I know what that, yeah, that's just, yeah, an image of the phone number with the, that's what I was saying earlier, same thing. All right, guys. Well, it looks like that's pretty much it for questions then. So hopefully, hopefully some people learn some stuff out there. Hopefully, Johnny, you get some cool results from your questions. Once again, thanks for your participation. That makes the webinar go great. Next webinar for Project Supremacy V3 will be in a month from now. You can always check the events page on Supremacy Digital, of course. And the replay for today will be uploaded into the keyword searchable database within the next couple of days. Other than that, have a great week, guys. We'll leave it at that. Talk to you later.